Excellencies, distinguished representatives of the African Union member states, Excellencies, participants, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, can we please take our seat so that we can start the proceedings of the day. We have Honorable Abekava, the Vice Chairperson of the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, who will be welcoming us and chairing the session. But also we have Honorable Robert Nanima. He is a member of the committee, but relevant to the session. He is a country rapporteur of the Republic of the United Republic of Tanzania. He will be moderating the discussion and deliberations that we're going to have today. Without further ado, I give the floor to Honorable Abegava, the Vice Chairperson of the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. Honorable Gava, you have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Ayalu. Good morning, colleagues. So standing on the protocols as established by Dr. Ayalu, I welcome all of you to today's session. And we will be going straight into the implementation hearing of a communication that has been before this committee and has come to the stage of hearing on the implementation today. It's the communication between Legal and Human Rights Center of Tanzania and the Center for Reproductive Rights as applicants on behalf of Tanzanian girls against the United Republic of Tanzania. And we are grateful to have all the parties and all the sides in the hall here. So I would be calling on the representatives of the government of Tanzania to first introduce themselves, and then after that we'll receive the introductions from the applicants to this communication from the Legal and Human Rights Center and from the Center for Reproductive Rights, beginning with representatives of states, please.
May it please Honorable Chairman of the committee and members of the committee, on behalf of the United Republic of Tanzania, the representatives are Haki Changa, Assistant Director, Constitution, Human Rights and Election Petitions in the Office of the Solicitor General of the United Republic of Tanzania, and the one speaking. And I'll be assisted by Honorina S. Smith, Principal City Attorney from the Office of the Attorney General of the United Republic of Tanzania. She's there. Also, Ledeka Msarangi, Principal City Attorney from the Office of the Attorney General of the United Republic of Tanzania. The next one will be Happy Msimbe, Principal City Attorney from the Ministry responsible to the implementation of this matter before you. And we have Daniel Nyakia, Senior City Attorney from the Office of the Solicitor General. We have Angelus Kapinga, Senior City Attorney from the Ministry of Education. And we have Luz Mario, City Attorney from the Office of the Solicitor General. We all will be representing the respondent state, that is the United Republic of Tanzania. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, you can go on the other side.
Honorable Madam Chair and member of the committee, on the part of the applicants,
I'm Fulgence Masawe, counsel for the applicant, and together with me is Martin Onyango, Salima Namusobia, Gertrude Diabene, Wanjiru Kamanda, Derek Kimani, and Elsie. And together we have teachers, one teacher with us, teacher Lulu Abdu, and one student is Fakur. That's all on the part of the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those introductions, and I welcome you all to these proceedings. At this stage, colleagues, I will be handing over to Honorable Robert Menima. Professor Robert Menima is the country rapporteur for Tanzania, so he's going to moderate the proceedings going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and I would like to add voice to welcome the delegation from the United Republic of Tanzania as the respondents and the applicant from Center for Reproductive Rights and Legal Human Rights Center, right? Yes. So I would like to set the tone. As you are well aware, CRR and LHRC brought a matter before this committee on behalf of the girls of Tanzania in terms of forced pregnancy testing, and the committee had the matter on its merits and it's handed down recommendations, which recommendations were issued to both parties. I'm glad to note that a lot of steps have been taken between the parties, and it's very instructive that from the various engagements that have come to our docket, it's clear that both parties are working towards the improvement of the plight of the Tanzanian girl, and that is very applauded. That's applaudable. So today we are going to have an implementation hearing under section 22 of our groupized guidelines for consideration of on implementation hearings for consideration of communications. Please, I would like to reiterate that we already had the hearing. We are not going to have a hearing. So let's not put on the engagement of that. We're not coming to hear the matter afresh. We are coming to have reflections on what has been done by the respondent state, and then the applicants will have an opportunity to reflect. So I'll briefly give you the procedure that we are going to follow, and the procedure is taken from Rule 22, Sub-Rule 3 of our rules on implementation of decisions of the committee with regard to implementation hearing. We have started with the parties informing the committee of the names and functions of the persons who have appeared here today, and we are going to have an oral submission. The oral submission is going to be by the respondent state, and the respondent state will give us in about 20 minutes the measures that it has taken so far to implement the decision of the committee. It will indicate if there are any factors or difficulties that have affected the implementation of this decision. It will state reasons for not taking measures, if any, to implement the decision, and it will also give guidance on the steps that it will follow. After the members from the respondent state have given that position, we shall then open up the floor to the members of the committee to put questions to the respondent state with regard to the implementation. Thereafter, the applicants will also take the floor to reflect on the views that have been put forward by the applicant state. And then the committee members might also have some questions for clarification to the applicants. Then thereafter we shall have the final rejoinder or rebuttal from the respondents. So it's a conversational attitude. It's not inquisitorial. It's to the end that we establish the steps that we have taken so far, and then thereafter we shall have a reflection. So without further ado, I'll invite the head of the delegation from the United Republic of Tanzania to address the committee in terms of the measures taken, factors or difficulties or spaces where they have been able to have successes, and any other reasons that you think are pertinent to the implementation of this decision. So the head of the delegation from the United Republic of Tanzania, you have 20 minutes and you may use it as you wish, either yourself or in consultation with your colleagues, but you have 20 minutes. Over to you.
Thank you, moderator. On behalf of the government of the United Republic of Tanzania, I would first wish to state that after the committee having had the application on merits, it gave some deliberations and there are some implementations which the United Republic of Tanzania was supposed to take after being...
Honorable Delegate,
yes.
You are at liberty to sit. It's okay. Okay, you don't have to stand.
Thank you. After having found that there are some violations that have been made by the United Republic of Tanzania with regard to some articles of the Charter, so I will go directly to the specific recommendation by the committee and the measures which the country has taken. Starting, the first recommendation was immediately prohibit mandatory pregnant testing in schools and health facilities and publicly announce the prohibition. As of now, the government is in the process of prohibiting mandatory pregnant testing in schools and health facilities, which will be taken on board on ongoing education laws reviews which are carried on by the government of the United Republic of Tanzania. However, the government has developed mechanisms and modules for the health and the protective pregnant testing, as well as empowering children with health and social skills for preventing themselves against early pregnancy as follows. The first is guidance. The first guidance and counseling and child protection guidelines has been developed and implemented from 2020 up to now. The second one is life skills guidelines based on HIV/AIDS, gender-based violence, sexual productive health, education. That is 2021. It is called as mwongozo wa mwalimu wa kufundisha stadi za maisha zinazolenga afya uzazi, VVU. That is just in Swahili. The third one is Education Circular number 6 of Administration of Morality for pre and primary school and secondary schools. And the other one is National Guideline for Establishment and Operationalization of Junior Councils of Tanzania 2022. The other one with respect to this matter is the National Guideline for Children Protection and Safety Desks in the out of school 2022. The final one is the phone call number, that is 117 for reporting reproductive issues and 116 for reporting gender-based violence issues. And the other is the Means of Communication, the Means of Community Development, Gender, Women and Special Groups Customer Service number, that is number 0262 160 250, and some other numbers that appear in our report that we sent to the committee, the report which we play to adapt to form part of our submission. And currently the government is in the process of reviewing the education laws and regulations as therefore stated. The other recommendation that was given by the committee is to review the education expansion and exclusion of pupils from schools regulations, that is of 2002. That is Government Notice number 295 of 2002, and in doing so to remove wedlock as a ground of expansion and provide an indication that moral ground of expansion should be interpreted narrow and should not apply in cases of pregnancy of school girls. with regard to this recommendation, the government is in the process of reviewing the framework of education sector, including the Education Act, that is Chapter 353, which is in the status of correction of stakeholders' opinion and education, in bracket, expulsion and exclusion of pupils from school, in bracket, that is regulation of 2002, that is government notice number 295 of 2002, which will be revised in view of the policy of education and training of 2014 edition of 2023 and the Education Act, that is CAP 353. The third recommendation by the Honorable Committee was to undertake concrete steps to prevent the expansion of pregnant and maid girls from schools, including by providing laws and the policies on the same. With regard to this recommendation, the government of the United Republic of Tanzania is in the process of reviewing the regulatory framework in the education sector, including the Education Act, that is aforesaid, and despite all this, the government is on the process of reviewing legal framework in the education sector. It continues to implement Education Circular number 2 of 2021 and the entry guidance of 2022, which allow dropout school girls due to pregnancy and marriage to re-enter schools of their choice. Furthermore, the government has established the mechanism of community awareness on importance for schoolgirls to continue with their education, as well as creating conducive learning environment in schools for re-entry students with the following initiatives. The first initiative is provision of mandatory life skills education based on sexual reproductive health that covers topics such as reproductive health, family planning, and the prevention of early pregnancies, equipping students with knowledge and skills to make informed decisions about their sexual and reproductive health. The other initiative is school counseling services, that is mentorship programs and peer support groups to provide guidance and assistance to re-entry pregnancy and married school girls, enabling them to manage the challenge they may face while pursuing their education through Timiza Malengo program, that is of 2018 up to recover up to 2016, whereby up to now it is about 216 adolescents, girls, and young women have benefited. The third initiative is flexible learning options, including part-time schooling, distance learning, and alternative education program through integrated program for out-of-school adolescents that we call IPOSA, launched on 7th March 2019, is alternative measures to accommodate opportunities, the needs of pregnant and married school girls, allowing them to continue their education while fulfilling their parental responsibility, about 42,000 up to 2023 benefited. The fourth initiative is school girls' mothers' health services, including prenatal and postnatal care, reproductive health services, and family planning resources through adolescents-friendly health reproductive services windows, in which 1,111 health facilities to support the overall well-being and enable them to balance their education pursuits with their health needs. The fifth initiative is public awareness campaigns and advocacy to promote the importance of educating pregnant and married girls and highlight the long-term benefits of support their continued education, aiming to shift societal attitudes and eliminate stigmas associated with these circumstances. The fifth measure, the sixth, the National Gender and Women Development Policy of 2023, which insists for equal education to girls and boys, as well as promoting girls to start science subjects by provision of special motivation through what we call Mama Samia Scholarship. It acts as a catalyst for women to pursue their education. The final initiative is ensuring retention of boys and girls students in primary and secondary schools, where a total of above 3,000, including teachers, community development officers, and education officers, have been trained on the use of national guidelines for children protection and safety desk in the out of school, that is 2022. The fourth recommendation by the Honorable Committee was to make sure that the government of Tanzania remove any policy of non-re-entry of school, including girls who have dropped out of school due to pregnancy or wedlock. The government, as I said, it is on the process of reviewing the education regulatory framework. That is the first initiative. And another initiative to handle this recommendation is the government to continue to implement the circular number 2 of 2022, that is the entry guidelines of 2022, which allow dropout students for various reasons, including pregnancy, to re-enter schools of their choice. As of 20 to 2023, a total of above 1,626 dropout students have re-entered schools to complete the education cycle at the level of the level they dropped out. The fifth recommendation by the Honorable Committee was immediately readmit schoolgirls who have been expelled due to pregnancy and wedlock, and provide special support program to compensate for the loss and ensure better learning outcome for the returned girls. The government has implemented this recommendation in the following manner. First, the government has readmitted a number of 304 schoolgirls due to pregnancy and wedlock dropout students until 2023. The second step taken, the government is implementing adolescent skills and young women Timiza Malengo project, whose main objective is to help school-based girls to graduate and those who are outside of the education system to be socially, economically empowered to earn a living free from HIV infections respectively. Timiza Malengo has benefited a total number of about 1,600,000 girls from 2021 to 2024. The third one is the government has special arrangements using 6 vocational rehabilitation training rehabilitation centers to admit schoolgirls who have been expelled due to pregnancy, whereby 46 young women benefited from 20 to 21 year up to 24th. Coming to the sixth recommendation by this Honorable Committee, the government was to provide clear guidance to school administrators that girls who drop out of school due to pregnancy or wedlock with their preference are allowed to come back to school with no preconditions. In implementing this recommendation, the government continued to implement the circular number 2, aforesaid, that is the entry guideline of 2022, which allows drop students for various reasons, including pregnancy, re-entry into schools. And we have what we call a non-formal secondary education program, whereby a total number of about 484 and regular program a total number of above 13,000, and the other campaign like Timiza Malengo has from 2021 to July 2024 empowered a good number of teachers to the tune of above 8,000 teachers from different regions. The campaign on progress. The seventh recommendation was to investigate the cases of detention of pregnant girls and immediately release detained pregnant girls who are being interrogated to reveal the impregnated, to reveal the suspects who impregnated them and stop such kinds of illegal arrests of pregnant girls. This recommendation has been dealt as follows. First, the government through the National Prosecution Service, that is the office which deal with coordination of investigation, conducting weekly inspection whereby a total number of 180 police custody are weekly inspected by the National Prosecution Service around the country to avoid unlawful detention, including but limited to pregnant girls. This is conducted pursuant to Section 16, Subsection 4 of the National Prosecution Service Act, that is Chapter 430. And another mode of implementing this recommendation is through the social welfare sector that provide family reconciliation services, psychosocial care and support services to ensure the collaborating prosecution process whereby 630 pregnant girls were reached. The eighth recommendation was to provide sexuality education for adolescent children and provide child-friendly sexual, reproductive and health services. With regard to these recommendations, the government has done the following. First, the education curricula provide for the sexual reproductive health education to be taught to pupils of standard 5 to standard 7, whereby new curriculum of 2024 introduces sexual reproductive health education and education from standard 3. And second, the government has developed a teacher's training manual on life skills based on the sexual reproductive health, HIV/AIDS, and gender-based violence, whereby above 4 million teachers in 10 regions, that is Dodoma, Tanga, Arusha, Mbeya, Rukwa, Shinyanga, Mwanza, Mara, Geita, and Dar es Salaam have been empowered to use the manual, which, while the plan for the other regions is under the way. That is, this is due to the geographical location of our country, which is very big. Then to deal with this recommendation, another step taken is the government through the National Integrated Case Management System has identified a total number of above 433,000 as most vulnerable children aged to 10 up to 18 years, whereby above 60,000 facilitated with health services including friendly sexual reproductive services. And the other way of handling this recommendation through the implementation of the National Accelerated Action and Investment Agenda for Adolescent Health and Well-being. That is from the year of the 2021 to 2022, 2024 up to 2025, in order to speed up the implementation of interventions related to the health and development of adolescent girls and boys in the country, whereby above 700,000 to 100,000 adolescent girls were reached both in schools and out of schools, with preventing teenage pregnancies, preventing physical, sexual, emotional violence, improving nutrition service, keeping boys and girls in schools, and developing schools for meaningful economic opportunity. Another way of handling this recommendation is through the government continues to promote responsive parenting through Frahatin program, which improves communication among adolescents together with their parents, among other, to prevent early pregnancies, whereby a total of 600 600 people, including parents and those adolescents, benefited from the program to spearhead knowledge among other members of the community in the respective areas. The other way is through the government implements the national guidelines for responsible parenting, that is of 2023, which provide parenting education focusing on 3 main pillars, which are care, protect, and communicate. A total of about 160 religious leaders and 83 government officials have been trained. And the final aspect with regard to this recommendation, the government conduct various campaigns to end violence against women and children through media commemorations such as the 16 days of activism, where above 10,000 people were reached. And we have Day of African Child and the International Day of a Family. They are just some forums which we use to provide education. The 9th recommendation was to investigate and prosecute perpetrators of sexual violence and child marriage. The government has handled, has done with this recommendation through the National Prosecution Service. As I said, that it deals to prosecution of those perpetrators, and the police force has managed to investigate and prosecute sexual violence and child marriage offenses, whereby a total number of 8,346 were investigated, and 5,668 were prosecuted to finality, and 2,678 are still in different stages in various courts of the United Republic of Tanzania. However, the government has developed the standard operation procedure for prosecutors and investigators on rape and other sexual offenses. In addition to that of 2023, has appointed a total number of 560 specialized investigators on gender-based violence, that is on 2023. On top of that, a total number of 5,253 sexual violence cases have been prosecuted in different courts all around the country. The 10th recommendation was to take action against any actors who conduct forceful pregnancy testing of any kind, or who discriminate against girls on the ground of their pregnancy or marital status, such as expulsion and detention. With regard to this, the government continued to implement the circular number 2 of 2021 and the entry guidance of 2022, which allow all dropout students for various reasons, including pregnancy, to re-enter schools of their choice and to abolish forced pregnancy testing. The 11th recommendation was to provide special support to pregnant and married girls to continue their education in a school of their choice and based on their consent. The government continued to implement the circular number 2 of 2021 and the entry guidance of 2022, which allow all dropout students of various, to including pregnancy, is stated to re-enter into schools to proceed with their education. And this campaign is done through what we call Timiza Malengo, to support them to stay at a school. The other mode of implementing this recommendation, the government has special programs of empowering youth aged about 15 to 35 who were expelled from schools due to pregnancy or early marriage and drugs. The program cover entrepreneurship and vocational training for 6 up to 12 months. This program empower youth, including pregnant and married girls, to become self-employed through tailoring, plumbing, welding, painting, tourism, and hotel management. Now, there is a data whereby in the year 2021 up to 2022, above 12,000 have benefited The other is the government continues to implement what we call Mama Cause program through government-financed special program for young mothers that is called Elimu Isiyokuwa na Mwisho, in respect of those who failed to continue in the formal education system in focal development colleges. This program provides an opportunity for adolescents who are pregnant, young mothers, and married young girls to obtain basic life skills at focal development colleges, which from 2017 to 2024, that's this year, has benefited above 7,000 young mothers in the country. The 12th recommendation by this honorable committee was to undertake extensive sensitization of teachers, healthcare providers, police and other actors who regard to the protections that should be accorded to pregnant and married girls. This has been implemented in the following ways. First, this is provided by the government. For example, police curriculum provide for the reproductive health and gender-based violence sensitization to on-job and those in training police schools and colleges. And secondly, the government conduct various campaigns to end violence against women and children through media, commemorations such as the 16th days of activism, the Day of African Child, International Day, a Family, and Twende Pamoja campaign, Ukatili Baba Sasa Bas. The 13th recommendation by this committee was the government to undertake proactive measures to watch.
I would request that you wrap up in 5 minutes.
Thank you. With regard to this 13th recommendation, the government continued to implement the Education Act Cap 453, among others, which prohibit impregnating school girls and to marry primary or secondary girls or schools, boy or primary secondary schools to male any person. Then there is a peer support groups that have been used to provide training on violence. The second mode of implementing this recommendation, the government has increased the special broadcasting schools, the special boarding schools for girls from 74 up to 100 to this year. The third one is the economic empowerments, whereby 15 women entrepreneurs have been empowered by being given capital. The other is the government has prepared a community dialogue guideline on preventing harmful practice of norms and values in the society. So, this guideline is coordinated through the ministry that is responsible for providing training and capacity building, whereby there are some people who have been trained. The other is that the campaign to end female genital mutilation that was conducted to and covered above 68,000 people in Mala, and it has been conducted in various regions in Tanzania, including Dodoma, Arusha, Singida, and Manyara, and the campaign are still ongoing. Therefore, among the stakeholders in the campaign were teachers, students, political leaders, religious leaders, as well as traditional leaders. The 14th recommendation by the committee was to create a conducive reporting and referral mechanism for survivors of sexual violence, including child marriage, and provide psychosocial support, rehabilitation to the survivor, to the service for the survivors. The government continued to operationalize and establish other toll-free numbers, what we call child helpline numbers, and the number that I mentioned, which are in the ministry responsible for implementation of these recommendations by this honorable committee. The government has established the emergency medical care, psychosocial care, and support services to every health facility to provide conducive environment to survivors of violence, including child violence. The ministry has also continued to register non-governmental organizations that aim to promote gender equality, social protections, human rights, and governments. And this NGO, to mention a few, including among the applicants, that is the Legal and Human Rights Center, the one who has been so cooperative in the implementations of these recommendations, both economically and technically, in an expert way. Therefore, generally, the government of Tanzania, in collaboration with other stakeholders, particularly the legal and human rights centers, we will continue to concentrate measures and efforts to protect, promote, and respect the rights of the schoolgirls, to be done through reforming the legal framework, as said. To conclude, the United Republic of Tanzania reaffirms commitment to promoting and protection of human rights, including the human rights of the children and the schoolgirls. The United Republic of Tanzania appreciates the African Committee on the Rights and Welfare of the Child for her commitment it has exhibited during the preparation of the report on the implementation of the recommendation of the committee. I would like to welcome my friend Kapinga to speak a little bit about, in 2 minutes, about the challenges.
Thank you.
You have the floor, but please stick to the 2 minutes. You've used way over the 20 minutes.
Thank you, the committee. I would like to address some challenges which were, despite of the efforts of the government which is doing to implement the recommendation, we still have some challenges which we face. I would like to address for the committee to know. One is lack of resources in terms of human and finance. The other one is cultural and religious beliefs. We still have cultural strong beliefs and religious beliefs which we find as if impediments to our implementation of the recommendation, though we have some efforts we are addressing too. 3 is lack of knowledge and awareness. 4, gender-based violence and settled, which is settled in the family level. We are still fighting with this impediment, but we are on move. 6 is limited and non-support from the families. These are some of the challenges with which we are facing in the implementation of the committee's report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the United Republic of Tanzania, for that very detailed exposition on the various steps that you have taken to start the process, engage the process, and continue the process of ensuring that the recommendations that were handed down by the Africa Children's Committee have been given heed to. That is very commendable, and it's a good practice which I think you're emulating, and it's also part of the moral voice that you're taking forward as a country that's engaging the process effectively. From the various aspects that you've spoken to, I would also like to commend you for the fact that you're engaging with the applicants. I think that's very commendable. In other spaces, that's not what happens, but the fact that you're engaging with the applicants, it shows us that you're putting the African Tanzanian child at the center, despite the challenges you're facing, and that the engagements are to the end that this child benefits from the processes. I think it's a good example of breaking down silos from an institutional perspective, from a state perspective, from a CSO perspective, to the end that you look at the greater picture how to improve the plight of the child. So we are going to open up the floor for some questions for clarity from the committee members, and I'll set the tone by asking a few questions, and then I'll open up the floor to my colleagues to follow suit. I would like to speak about the circular, and it's something that we also indicated in the communication. The circular, this is the Education Circular 2 of 2021 that was passed just shortly after the matter had been handled, when the matter was being handled by the committee. There are still 5 critical aspects that would require clarity on. There are other circulars that you've referred to of 2022, 2023, in terms of precedence, which circular takes precedence now, in terms of the various engagements that you've taken forward. With regard to this specific circular, please give clarity on whether it deals with aspects of mandatory testing, expulsion of pregnant and married girls, denial of re-entry to schools, and detention. Why I raise this, because the recommendations we feel that was not dealt with in the circular that was spoken about. Secondly, there are these children who were expelled from school, but the circular was referring to those who dropped out. So is it referring to those who were expelled, those who dropped out, or both? I think that could be a more comprehensive approach if you're able to give us clarity on those. Then there was the issue of time limitation. It would appear the circular was applying to the girls who dropped out of school from 2019 going forward. What about girls before? Number 4, the exclusion of children who had been expelled from school due to criminal cases. It's something that you've referred to. You've referred to the National Prosecution Service doing weekly investigations. Does it inculcate this specific limitation in the circular? Then I know the circular might be made under a specific policy or a specific law. For purposes of not assuming, give us guidance on the position of the circular, the position of education regulations in light with the parent law. If the parent law is not dealing with the problem, how does the circular deal with the same? So that's about the circular. Then some other general questions. You've spoken about the ongoing revision of the Education Act to address the concerns on the expulsion regulations of the state. It would be good for the committee to know the considerations that are being made and what proposals are included with regard to revision of the Education Act. And are there specific provisions from a legislative perspective that would address the expulsion of pregnant girls and married girls? This is important because under our Article 1, the state is expected to take all necessary measures, whether legislative, whether administrative, among others. Secondly, the committee's recommendation on forced pregnancy testing, it required immediate action. And the decision provided that mandatory pregnancy testing should be banned immediately. Yes, there are various engagements that have been made, but it still shows there is some kind of delay in the process. I would have loved to hear a challenge that there is a delay and why the delay. The submission of the state indicated that the government is in the process of banning. It would be important to hear why the delay in the ban is still evident. Then in terms of the various challenges, I think it's highly commendable that you've not only painted the rosy picture, but you've said despite the rosy picture, there are some thorns that we are still dealing with. And I think this is a great space to have a conversation on those challenges. In terms of lack of resources, human and financial, it's also clear that you have a very good working relationship with the applicants and other civil society organizations and other stakeholders. Have you taken time to identify some of the resources that you would need, identify who would be the critical key players who would provide the resources, whether financial, whether human resource. Have you identified timelines? Do you have something like a matrix in terms of what you have done in terms of implementation? Because it's clear you've gone ahead and started the processes. The aspect of culture and religious beliefs, there was no indication on the specificity of these beliefs. It would be good to understand what are the nature of the beliefs. Could the question of harmonization of laws help? Could the question of dissemination of information about sexual and reproductive health and rights help? Because at least you've gone ahead to introduce a curriculum in terms of sexuality education from standard 3. That could be a good point to take forward. I would like to hear more of that. In terms of limited support from families, would seek more guidance. There are ministries for gender, ministries for the family. To what extent are they engaged? Supposing we to use more of coordination and collaboration, how would that help us to deal with this specific challenge? So those are the few questions for clarity. Please, I reiterate that it is a conversational tone, and I will, just a moment. A quick question, would you need time to reflect on these questions? This is the United Republic. So if that's the case, then can we have another round of questions from colleagues from the committee? Then we shall give you a few minutes to reflect and come back and continue the conversation. So I open up the floor to the honorable committee members who might have some questions, some points for clarity. Honorable Abubakrin, and he's the special rapporteur on health. You have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, distinguished chair, the presiding officer. For the floor, I'd like to commend the United Republic of Tanzania for having conjugated effort with respect of not sending out of pregnant young girls at schools, whether be it undesired pregnancies or married. From the onset, the rights to education must be guaranteed by the Tanzanian government to every child. Since 2019, the Center for Reproductive Rights submitted a complaint in respect to the young girls who were sent out of schools owing to pregnancies. Today, we are in 2024. There is no any follow-up on this complaint, in this communication. Whereas, the Tanzanian government stipulates that in the policies of 2014, there was a decision according to which young girls who have left, young pregnant girls who had been sent out of school should be readmitted to schools. The complainants noted that this provision has not been respected by the Tanzanian Republic. Therefore, these young girls were expelled from schools. Today, what are the decisions that the United Republic of Tanzania has taken to particularize this issue? The right of procreation is an acquired, is a guaranteed right for every young girl, whereas we know that a girl of 14 years in Tanzania has a right to get married. Why? The Tanzanian Republic is expelling young girls, young spouses. As we may even hypothesize that there is no morality in Tanzania. In a succinct and a crystal clear explanation, are there any laws which abrogated or prescribed these texts according to which young pregnant girls are sent out of schools? What are the provisions, the measures that have been taken so as to eradicate these harmful practices? I submit. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Abubakrin. I'll give the floor to Honorable Sabrina.
Everyone, good morning, the representative of the government of Tanzania. I'll take the floor in French, so you have to put your headphone.
Well, I'm coming back on the issue of the right to education. With regard to the specificity of this right, which has to be constant, consistent, and permanent, which should not, in any cases whatsoever, be interrupted, I'm going to explicate my idea, my rationale. For sick children, or young girls who are menstruating, we cannot come out of the houses. Equally, particularly for young girls who have any health issues whatsoever, how will the member state apply? How does this member state apply or particularize, implement this right to education in a constant and consistent way? Are there any interruption whatsoever, any interruption on this right pertaining to the young girls and the children in general? Well, another issue that I would like to put forward is the Tanzanian government. Has the Tanzanian government implemented this right to education so that all these children should enjoy these rights, so that we do not talk about school dropouts, so that we should not talk about school retention, so that we do not talk about school reintegration? It is crystal clear that when we are talking about the issue of retention or re-entry or reintegration, we accept somehow the fact of interrupting schooling, interrupting the fact that children should benefit, enjoy plainly of the rights. What are the measures implemented by the member states so that the children should enjoy permanently the rights to education? I name, for instance, what is applied in other countries, namely where I'm coming from, Algeria. A mobile school where trained teachers were moving to hospital or to schools so that they may keep this linkage with regard to schooling and education. Also submit, Chair. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sabrina. Any other members of the committee? Honorable Karuna, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the floor. All protocols observed. I want to at least greet the government of Tanzania and all those of you present for this communication, which is in fact a very interesting communication regarding sexual reproductive health rights, right, of our children, especially our girl child. This communication it's almost at an opportune time where we really want to ensure that continental Africa really set in place all the mechanisms, all the processes and procedures that we need to ensure that sexual reproductive health rights is indeed a reality, right? Having said so, Chairperson, I hear the government say that they are working actually with NGOs. I think, and this is a very good strategy, because we cannot expect government as the sole stakeholder to be able to, bring forth this issue of sexual reproductive health rights and ensure that this is a reality only, right, as the sole stakeholder. We have in mind all the countries where government are working hand in hand with NGOs. So I think we have to really express our congratulations and really we take good note of the fact that you say that you're working with NGOs, but what we want to know as a committee is how you're working with the NGOs, because we have also seen in so many countries NGOs come forward and tell us they're working with the government. It's only a rhetoric, it's only on paper, but when you go deep down, then you see that the mechanism is not there. It's more a tug of war, it's a fight, instead of really coming together to put heads together to see how we handle the situation, how we put our children, how we put sexual reproductive health of girl child and boy child at the center of our discussion, at the center of our planning in the country. So the how you're operationalizing this mechanism to ensure that you handhold and work with NGOs, and NGOs also work with the government, the procedures in place, the processes, and also about the outcomes. Also, I take note of this issue of lack of resources, but this should not come as an excuse, right? Because resources, especially human and financial resources, always there. Each and everyone come and tell us that it's a problem. There is always a lack, it's scarcity, right? But then we should not take it as a barrier. This should not come as a barrier to see how we are going to put in place structures really to ensure that we reach out, especially to those girls who are living in the remote, far outer, where it's really difficult to reach to these girls. So the government, this is your role, to see how we reach out to our children who are the most vulnerable, especially because of inaccessibility. It's not only you cannot accede to them, but you do not have the structures. You do not have the roads, you do not have the schools, you do not have the transport system. So and then also we have barriers. We have cultural barriers as well, because you also talk of cultural and religious strong belief that are acting as barriers, right, to ensure that we put in place these structures that it can be formal, non-formal, but there is need for structures, because we need to strategize. There's need for that strategy to really put in place the system that will be, once operationalized, provides for the sexual reproductive health rights. There is also your talk of the gender-based violence. I think this is also a very key as an entry point into this issue of how to tackle and end this problem of not attending to sexual reproductive health rights of people in the country, especially for young girls, and especially those who are at school. And also no support or limited support from families. So again, I would wish to point out that these are issues that are key, that we really have to break these barriers, and these are areas where the support of NGOs, the civil society is really welcoming. So how is the government of Tanzania paving the way forward so that NGOs, civil society and government, instead of being in a tug of war, can at least concert their efforts together and ensure that our girls really enjoy their right to education while they also enjoy the right to sexual health, reproductive health rights. Thank you, Chair. I submit.
Thank you very much, Honorable Karuna. The government of Tanzania, if you may recall, that was at one time your country rapporteur. So her passion can be felt in the question she's asking. If there is no other member of the committee, just reiterate once again that we really commend you for the measures that you're taking as Tanzania. We shall give you 20 minutes to have an introspection. If there are a few follow-up questions from the committee, we shall give the committee one more opportunity, and then the process will entail. So I'll request a member from the Secretariat to show the Republic of Tanzania, the delegation from the Republic, a room where they may have some discussions on this before we reconvene in 20 minutes. Ms. Samrawit will usher the delegation to a room next door. So we shall have a break for 20 minutes as the delegation from the United Republic deliberates on the various issues that have been raised. So we shall meet at 10:48. Sorry, 10:38, 20 minutes. Thank you. Welcome back from the break, and the United Republic of Tanzania, welcome back from the deliberations. So you'll have 15 minutes to share your views on the various areas for clarification that were needed before we hear from the applicants. So the delegation from Tanzania, you have 15 minutes. Over to you.
Honorable Moderator, I would wish to welcome Angelus Kapinga. He will be followed by Lucy Mario to give the feedback in respect to the question posed by the members of the committee.
Thank you, members of the committee. We are here to give some explanations on the issues raised by the members as follows. On the issue of relationship between a secular, education secular number 2 of 2001 and the 2021 and the guidelines followed thereafter, is that the secular prevails over all the other guidelines. The secular states general statements, and the guidelines are there to implement, to show the responsibilities of stakeholders in the implementation of that general statement by the secular. On the issue of secular, whether it prohibits mandatory pregnant testing and out-of-school girls, that the secular states in general that any Tanzanian girl or boy who did not complete his or her education secular, but somewhere stopped for any other reason, including pregnancy and marriage, should come back to school. On the issue of dropout and expelling and re-entry, the circular again welcomes any person who was expelled or excluded before for any reason, except for criminal offenses. If any student was expelled or excluded due to criminal offenses, there are some other laws to guide specifically following the state of the criminality. For example, in the case of pregnancy, the Education Act is taking a lead on to punish those who impregnate schoolgirls, or even a schoolboy impregnates the other schoolgirl, they will be also penalized by Education Act. But the other laws are criminal law and penal code and the law of the child penalize issues of criminal offenses for in the country. Yes, on the issue of ongoing review of the Education Act or education laws or legal framework, we are now in the stage of collecting opinion from the stakeholders, which is a mandatory stage which we have to go through. You have to get opinion from stakeholders to see what do they say, what do they propose, and you integrate in the Education Act. Yes, on the issue of the parent law does not prohibit, but the circular prohibits. In the implementation of the circular, while the parent law does not allow that to review the law is a long process. Like this expulsion and exclusion of students from schools, we have prohibited the use of that rule by integrating a circular, while the rule waits for its review, the long process which we are in review and a collection of stakeholders' opinion. But the circular is in force. On the issue of financial challenges, we accept that and we agree there are not barriers to implement education rights and any other rights. But we all know that if you are facing financial constraints, the speed of implementation of whatever goodwill you have will be slowed down by such challenges. So we don't take as barriers, but as they are slowing down our speed to our intention. Whether Education Act prohibits the acts, no. The issue of impregnating and marrying students, the position is that the Education Act itself prohibits any act of impregnating and marrying students. This includes to aid, any person who aids a person to marry a student is penalized by the act, which includes receiving dowries and any other assistance the act prohibits any act which will assist to students to be married or to be impregnated. Challenges from the family, we face it to be challenges as some issues due to family ties and family practice are settled at the level of the family before it goes to other legal structures which would have been with a different opinion, but the family tackled the matter before. This is one challenge. In this regard, the government is engaging in public awareness through radios, through magazines, and whatever media, to create awareness for the right of education, right to education for young girls, young boys, to complete their education cycle. Education Act itself punishes the married young girls and young boys. Whether the right to education are guaranteed by the laws of Tanzania. It's yes, the answer. The right to education is guaranteed by the Constitution of the United Republic of Tanzania. It's guaranteed by the Education Act. It's guaranteed by the law of the child, guaranteed by the Penal Code. And we have the policy, the education training policy, and gender policy. But also we have a free education policy which opens a door for every young person to go freely from primary to secondary education, freely. The issue of involvement of the non-government organization is yes, we are involved with that much. By allowing them to work in the country, registering them, and they work in the country, to involve them in the important stakeholders in our review of legal structures. We involve them as a legal requirement. We make some MOUs with those organizations to let them interfere any aspect of education they want, of their wish. And some also organizations assist the activities of the government through funds. For example, HRC is doing much on assisting the government to implement its activities. I beg to submit some.
May it please, Honorable Moderator, that's all for the Republic of Tanzania. Thank you.
Once again, thank you very much, the delegation from the Republic of Tanzania. Please, may we applaud them for the conversation. One thing that, in terms of guidance that the Republic has given is the fact that the circular prevails over the guidelines, the facts that yes, it prohibits mandatory pregnancy testing, the exclusion of its application is with regard to criminal offenses, and I think this has been explained, giving the courts the opportunity to engage with those issues that have been before it. It's good to know that there's an ongoing review of the Education Act. And also thank you for giving us guidance in terms of using the circular to legally circumvent the need to have the amendment of the Act, which would take a longer period of time. That's also appreciated. But most importantly, the recognition of the family as a critical unit in terms of engaging with aspects that affect children and also equally importantly, the recognition of the applicants as stakeholders and not persons you're up in arms against. I think that is a good practice to be emulated going forward. So in line with our rules, we shall now give an opportunity to the applicants to reflect on the conversation that you have started. According to the rules, the applicants shall have the floor. That is section, in accordance with section 22, subsection 3, clause 7, clause 6. The applicant shall have the floor to reflect their opinion on the report presented. And I also would like to draw your attention to clause 7, that the reflection shall also speak to aspects of implementation on the status of the decision, indicate the gaps in terms of implementation of the decision and measures that should be taken to fill those gaps, and reflect on the factors that are hindering the respondent state from taking the measures as you engage. So I would like to reiterate once again, this is a conversational space. It's to the end that the Tanzanian girl benefits from these processes. So I'll give the applicants 15 minutes to give their reflections, and you're at liberty to use the 15 minutes as you wish. But before you start the 15 minutes, I'll kindly request the head of the delegation of the applicants to first introduce themselves to the members here before the 15 minutes start running. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson and member of the committee. Let me reintroduce ourselves again. My name is Fulgence Masawe. I'll be leading this delegation. Together with me is Martin Onyango, Salima Namubosia, Gertrude Diabene, Wanjiru, Derek, and the Elsie. Yeah, I'll start with 7 recommendations, and Martin will address the rest. And if there is something to chip in, the rest of the delegation will be given opportunity to respond within the time allotted to us. First of all, let me appreciate and recognize the efforts which has been taken by the government of Tanzania. And we agree that we have been privy to some of the process which have been presented by the government of Tanzania, and we appreciate the level of the civility which is being expressed and it's been witnessed before you. But going through the recommendation one by one, recommendation number 1, which was on immediately prohibit mandatory pregnancy testing in schools and health facilities and public announcement the prohibition. We as the applicant, we are not aware of any policy or guideline which has been put in place which address the issue of mandatory pregnancy testing. But we recognize some of the policies which have been referred by the government, by the respondent states, but some of these policies have been there before even this communication before you. So there are some more efforts which are needed on the part of the respondent states in addressing the issue of mandatory pregnancy testing. There was the question of review of education expansion exclusion of pupils from schools, regulation of 2002, Gen 295. The regulation have not yet been reviewed to accommodate this recommendation, although the applicants, as applicants, we are aware of some of efforts taken by the government, the respondent states, especially in July 2024. There was we participated in stakeholders consultation hosted by the respondent states towards reviewing the Education Act of 1978 and regulation therefore. To date, we are not aware how far they've gone, so it is within their mandate. Undertake the step to prevent the expansion of the pregnant girls and married girls from schools, including by providing law and policies in the same. The respondent state was required to undertake these concrete measures to prevent girls from being expelled from school. We recognize the efforts taken, but there is no law or policy in place to date, which has been adopted by the respondent state to protect the pregnant girls and married girls from being expelled from the school. Remove the policy of non-reentry, including the girls who have dropped out of school due to pregnancy and wedlock. The respondent state had in November 2021, through the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, issued the circular number 2 of 2021, which allowed the pregnant girls to be readmitted to formal schools. The committee, and this was adopted in the middle of the hearing of this communication, after the first hearing, but the committee was brought into aware of this circular. The committee, however, having analyzed the circular, was of the view that the circular did not address some of the key issues which were raised by the applicant, including mandatory pregnant testing and the expulsion from school of the married girls and reentry, and the detention of pregnant girls. The committee was of the view that the circular only addressed the situation of the girls who drop out due to pregnancy and was therefore not a sufficient explanation by the respondent states. Post-decision, this circular has been followed by several announcements by the President Samia Suluhu Hassan on shift in the policy, allowing adolescent mothers to return to school. However, despite of this pronouncement, implementation at the school level is mixed, with some schools still expelling pregnant girls from school. This was followed by the re-entry guideline of February 2022 for the procedure and process to be followed for the girl to return to school. Though we appreciate the efforts made by the respondent state, the circular and guideline are not binding. They do not have any corresponding sanction and the enforcement mechanism to track the compliance. Further, the Haki report documented that despite of the guideline, the right to re-entry for the girls who dropped out of school due to pregnancy is not assured, as some parents and teen mothers reported to have been rejected by the heads of school when returning to formal education, and they were directed to join alternative pathway. And there was no sanction for those who prohibit them from joining the school. There was a recommendation on immediate readmit school girls who have been expelled due to pregnancy and wedlock. The respondent state was not only required immediately readmit school girls who have been expelled due to pregnancy and wedlock, but also to provide special supporting programs to compensate for the lost years and ensure better learning outcome for the returned girls. To date, the respondent state has not implemented this according to the public information available. Recent reports suggest that a significant number of girls expelled due to pregnancy have not returned to schools. Also, the guideline only admits girls who were expelled 2 years before the operation, and that exclusion of petitioners of this communication. So whoever affected beyond 2 years, the guideline does not address that. The respondent state also was required to provide the clear guideline to school administrators that the girls who drop out of school due to pregnancy or wedlock with their preference are allowed to come back to school with no preconditions. The respondent states adopted the guideline as a referred of 2022, but there have never been any effort on the ground to popularize the same. The guidelines themselves are not comprehensive enough and do not cover all aspects of reentry. There is ambiguity in the guideline. It does not provide interpretation of the key terms, and it does not provide the roles of the teachers who have direct interaction with their students in school. Furthermore, the guideline also does not indicate at what gestation in pregnant girls' schools should stop, and most are expelled immediately after found to be pregnant. In addition, in some districts, for example, Masasi in Twara, the southern part of Tanzania, bordering Mozambique, there are specific schools designed for re-entering students, which not only increases the stigma towards this group of the students, but also creates barrier in terms of distance where the re-entering students are assigned assigned to the school and they are living far from where they and their homes are far from where the school is. The guideline further bar girls who drop out of pregnancy re-entering school before the lapse of 2 years of post-delivery, which is an unjustifiable extended period of the time that teen mothers are forced to stay out of school before resuming. The guidelines fail to provide full protection to ensure the girls mandatorily return to school after the 2 years, but make it more of choice, and with no enabling environment and poor services, most girls choose not to continue or opt other education system for those who cannot afford, who can afford. Also, the guideline does not provide the protection when the girls gets pregnant for the second time or third time, which means that the scenario the girls would have the waiver are right to continue with the education. There was a recommendation to provide clear guideline to school administrators that girls who drop out of school due to pregnancy or wedlock with their preference are allowed to come back to school with no precondition. As I have pointed out, the respondent state has adopted the circular and the guideline, but the guideline have the time limit of 2 years as I have pointed out. Additionally, the guideline has no legal effect while the impugned regulation is still in place. The guideline is narrow in scope and it failed to address some key issues as pointed out. In the report by Haki of 2024, reports highlight challenges in implementation of the guideline, including the lack of awareness of the guideline and the misinterpretation by some of the school heads that the resumption to education is only to informal education for teen mothers. There was issue to investigate detention of the girls and immediate release of the girls detained for pregnant reasons. We appreciate some of the efforts taken and the roles of the National Prosecution Services of visiting the retention centers, especially the police station. But based on submission before the committee of experts, we found that the pregnant learners were being detained and interrogated to reveal who impregnated them. The committee recommended that the respondent investigate these cases immediately and release the
Head of delegation of the applicants, a reminder that you have 2 minutes.
And stop those.
We shall make it 5 minutes for you to wrap up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And stop all kinds of illegal arrests and the pregnant girls. As we make this submission, no public data available on the number of the girls who have been detained and released after the committee had made the decision. I'll invite my colleague Martin to proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. The Chair of the committee. Mr. Chair, you will give us 1 minute at the end so that we, in the spirit of conversation, the participant, the learner that joined us could just pose a question to the respondent state. Mr. Chairman, for the applicants, core to the conversation following this decision and appreciating the joint efforts in implementation, we highlight that what is really lacking that we need to focus on is anchoring the strong recommendations from the committee in laws. Alongside what is being done in the stopgap measure, we need to anchor those recommendations in laws in line with the charter so that we can guarantee protection to children, to learners in Tanzania, but also establish an accountability mechanism for those who fail to adhere to those standards. That is when we will improve our society and also improve the welfare of learners in Tanzania. Secondly, is the issue of eliminating child marriage and harmful practices. The committee, there is progress being made in law reform, but the decision of this committee alongside the decision of the Court of Appeal in Tanzania in the case of Rebecca Giumi inform the substance of those reforms. We submit that besides anchoring the recommendations in law, the substance of those policies should reflect the obligations of the state in the charter, so that we do not just have a formal or rhetorical change, but we have substantive change in the lives of learners. We submit as applicants that we continue to be committed in continuing the collaboration with the respondent state through various committees and organs of the state that are involved in the implementation, and we encourage the implementing departments of government to join the legal representatives, so that we have what we would call a collaborative content development. As part of the conversations, the committee, we had developed an implementation matrix with a committee of government departments in Arusha. We urge that to be at the core of what the government or the respondent state is doing in comprehensively implementing the decision of the committee. At this point, with the permission of the chair, and because the respondent state will have a final bite, if you would grant us a minute so that the learner from Tanzania can just ask one question or two to the respondent state for reflection as they respond. Thank you.
Thank you, applicants. Unfortunately, our rules are silent on any other person asking the respondent apart from the committee members. But it will be to the effect that whoever who seeks to take the floor takes the floor as part of the delegation of the applicants to give a reflection to the respondent state. So let's term it that way so that it's within our rules. So that specific chair can come in as part of the applicant's delegation to reflect, and the respondent state will have an opportunity to respond to the same, but as a reflection.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman, that this comes as a reflection of what has been happening, and I invite Isfaha Fakru to reflect through a question on what has been happening in country.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Isfahan and I'm from Tanzania. Actually, we've seen different reflections in Tanzania, and I'm a student from school, and as a girl, I wanted to ask to the government before doing different reflections. I wanted to know from the government what measures are being taken to improve access to sexual and reproductive health education and services for girls, especially in rural areas. In cities in Tanzania, we see different access to sexual and reproductive health education were given in the cities because it's much more accessible and the technological development is high in the cities than rural areas. Rural areas are places which are more concentrated, and we don't see different practices which are done because in rural areas people follow more traditional acts than what the global world is doing right now. So I wanted to know what measures are being taken by the government to improve access of sexual and reproductive health education to girls in rural areas. My next question is that how does the government monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of its policies and programs aimed at protecting girls' rights? I really wanted to know, the government designs different policies according to protecting girls' rights in Tanzania. We see that because I'm in the city and I'm studying in the city, and I see that where us as girls we're being protected. But what's happening in rural areas? What are the acts which are being done? And what is the government doing to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the policies which are being done by them? The next question is that what programs are in place to to ensure that girls who drop out of school due to pregnancy are reintegrated in the education system. We see that girls who became pregnant while they're studying at school, they drop out for a short period of time because to adjust for their situation. But what happens if they come back to school? The curriculums which they lost, the topics and the things which the other girls learned, they missed out due to the dropout. What is the government planning to fit in the things which the girls missed out from school? And the last question, most importantly, is that what portion of the national budget is allocated specifically to programs for protecting and promoting girls' rights? We see that the government is planning different time schemes, different things to protect the girls' rights, yes, but what's the specific budget of the national budget of the portion to allocated to protect the girls' rights? So I really wanted to know, is there any portion that the government has kept for specifically protecting the girls' rights? I know the Mr. there has discussed them according to the stigmatization, but I really wanted to know, what does the government of United Republic of Tanzania take to prevent a girl who became a young mother from stigmatization from students from the school she came from? We see that it has to be kept private, but sometimes in different circumstances, the girl's secret comes out to different students, right? So I really wanted to know, the students will know her situation and start stigmatizing her. She'll feel bad and she'll not have the comfortability to start at the same place, people knowing her situation. So what's the government's plan and measures taken to prevent the girls from that stigmatization? Thank you so much. It's been a really great pleasure to share my experience with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Those are our reflections as applicants, and for the record, we have submitted to the committee a written reflection that we will avail to the respondent state, and we also believe that if they had any reflection in writing, that would be shared with us too. We remain committed to the jurisdiction of the committee and to the collaboration with the respondent state to make this decision a lived reality. Thank you very much for your indulgence.
A round of applause to the applicants. Thank you very much, and I would also like to specially thank the reflections from the young lady. I'm at peace that in 40 years' time I'll have a very good doctor in you looking after me. You've shown the aspect of leadership now, and you're not waiting for tomorrow. So thank you very much. Your reflections are highly appreciated. So I'll give one last opportunity to the members of the committee if they have any burning question for clarification before I hand over the floor to the the delegation from the United Republic of Tanzania. Any reflections? Yes, Honorable Bekrin.
Merci, Monsieur le Modérateur.
Thank you, Chair, for the floor. From the onset, I'd like to say that the Center for Reproductive Rights commends the efforts conjugated by Tanzania in terms of eradicating the compulsory pregnancy test. I have read through communication that these tests are compulsory made at school establishments who are not even health professionals. Why do we authorize such people to do that? This can be harmful for young girls. They may force and create issues. However, the quintessential part of us is that Tanzania is observing the charter, according to which chapter 11 says each child has to enjoy her rights, as the state has to guarantee. Everyone has the right to education because this education envisages the promotion and development of the child's personality and encourages the observance of the observation of human rights and the fundamental liberties as enshrined in the different instruments for which Tanzania is signatory. Education envisages entrenching and consolidating moral values as per the African cultures. Education envisages preparing all these children who are wholeheartedly citizens. They can be the parents, they can be our future leaders. Therefore, the United Republic of Tanzania should preserve the right to education. We would like to know the measures undertaken by the United Republic of Tanzania so as to encourage the primary and secondary schooling of the young girls. Given that you are part of this charter, you should take all the necessary provisions so as to ensure that the pregnant adolescent girls, before finishing the education, may have the possibility to pursue the education. These pregnant young girls should be treated with all due humility and respect so that they may pursue their studies and for a better future, which they deserve. Therefore, would like to know the revision of legislation, would like to know the timeline according to which the revision of the laws should be made. In the same spirit of the dictates of the Supreme Court, so as to enable these young pregnant girls to enjoy their education. The testimony of our child was very touching, moving. Would like to the rights, to reproductive rights and health. If each young girl has a right to deliver efficiently, this is a human duty. Therefore, Tanzania should sure as today or in the future takes that these decisions are taken into consideration, that these decisions are crystal clear, without any form of ambiguity, so that these young girls should resume their education with all sobriety for a better Tanzania. Tanzania, the United Republic of Tanzania, should ensure the education of these young girls because they are the leaders of tomorrow. To preserve and entrench your development and security, you should have an educated and enamored youth without any iota of doubt. According to the Tanzania statistics, the females are more than 50% of the population. Therefore, they should not be disenfranchised. They are, of course, advancements which have been achieved by Tanzania, but we'd like to see things to move forward so that things should be clear, more concrete, and more pragmatic on the implementation. As of submit, distinguished Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Abubakrin, for your reflections and words of advice to the delegation from the United Republic of Tanzania. Any other member of the committee? Yes, Honorable Karuna.
Thank you, Chair. I won't be long. It's just I thank our honourable colleague also, who's been rightly pointing about when can we expect the government of Tanzania to transpose in laws the recommendation that the committee has made, because we really, we do understand that guidelines have got no legal effect, it is narrow, and it is failing to address really many key issues. But also we take note of the lack of awareness that has been raised, the lack of awareness the lack of awareness and misinterpretation, right, when it comes to the reversion to school. I believe I hear about something about going back to informal education rather than to the same school that the child was going. And also I want to be enlightened on the specific school for re-entry, because it would seem that the child can, there are specific schools that are being put in place to welcome those girls who've been, you know, on not vacation, but stopped for some time. And the issue of stigmatizing, barriers and distance, they are all there. So maybe we should get more information from the government regarding this specific school for girls who are re-entering the formal education. And also there is no explicit provisions for the length of stay or when they can resume school after their delivery. So about mandatory return to school, I think these are issues that should really come out clearly to ensure that we are really addressing the right of the girl to education. There is also one issue that I really want to get to understand again. It's about the efforts that are being deployed really to eradicate child marriage and practices in Tanzania. But I do appreciate the remark from the applicant about they want to have a collaborative development when it comes to implementation of the decision of the committee. On this note, I submit, Chair. Thank you for the floor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Karuna. Any other member of the committee who would want to take the floor? Once again, I would like to thank the applicants for their reflections on this. I think it still reflects that elephant in the room. We have the guidelines, we have the circular. Are they being implemented? What's the status of the implementation? What can we do to improve the implementation? I'm happy to note that there's a development matrix. Perhaps that's a good point that we could start from. And the aspect of other critical stakeholders, I think that's a conversation that has also been started by the respondent state. So I'll give the respondent state 7 minutes, between 7 to 10 minutes, to give their final reflections and some guidance to the committee on the way forward. So the United Republic, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Moderator. My fellow representative will start, then I'll make the final conclusion remark. Thank you.
Thank you, the committee. I would like to address some of the questions raised on the issue of pregnancy testing practiced or done by unprofessional practitioners is an issue which is going to be addressed in the review of Education Act. It's one of the issues we have identified to be addressed and to provide laws on the same practice on the issue of pregnancy testing in schools. Who, where, how, and when will be addressed by the law when we are moving on this review. On the issue of timeline, the member asked when we think we can have a law at hand to ensure the protection of our girls and those concerned with such issues. As we move on, by the end of 2025, we will have the Education Act reviewed, the mother law in education in the country. CAPE 353 will be reviewed, pending on other education laws from the education institutions. We have 15 laws in education institutions, which will be reviewed after the completion of the main act by the end of 2025. On the issue of, I heard a member commenting on, we introduce those out of school, dropouts of school to informal education. I would like to make it clear, it's not to informal education, to non-informal, which is different from informal education. To non-informal, it's just the procedure, just this procedure. But the content is the same which others get from formal education. We've opened a window to entry students to choose on their own whether they want to pursue on the formal education system, to choose the schools of their choice, or to go to alternative measures of the government program, and some are financed by the government, to non-formal, but the same content, and to come with the same end point as if they were in a formal education. It was just this to clarify. Thank you.
Honorable Moderator, just to cover some few aspects, I wish to say that with regard to measures to access on sexual and reproductive health education in rural areas, I wish to say that as per our report which we have submitted, we have taken some initiatives starting with the allowing of the non-governmental organizations which are disseminating education on issues of reproduction, sexual reproduction, and we are, as we say that, we are incorporating with key stakeholders such as the religious leaders, tradition leaders, civil societies, etc. This goes in line with the issue of the problem of stigmatization. Also, the issue of making sure that the matter that has been raised in this committee and their recommendation, I wish to add that the progress of reviewing laws, one may think that it takes a bit longer time. The reason behind that, we don't want to make any stone remain unturned. The issue of children, girls to get education, it is a very key issue in the United Republic of Tanzania. So we are trying to make sure that the laws that are going to be devised will cater all recommendations that this honorable committee issued for the United Republic of Tanzania to make sure that we take it on board. And I wish to further say that on behalf of the United Republic of Tanzania, all recommendations that this honorable committee directed to the United Republic of Tanzania will be implemented. In case there are some other recommendations which maybe have not fully been implemented, I wish to assure the committee that the United Republic of Tanzania will do all whatever we can to make sure that they are fully implemented, and we shall be giving a periodic report on the progress of the implementation of these recommendations. I beg to submit. Thank you for your guidance.
Once again, thank you very much, the delegation of Tanzania as respondents and applicants for engaging in this exercise. In terms of steps that will follow after this, the committee shall adopt guiding recommendations in form of a report that will be shared with the respondents and the applicants. and further guidance on the steps to be followed thereafter from the perspective of the committee will be communicated. In addition, I would like to remind you that this decision is very important for various reasons. Why? It is redefining implementation, where you're not waiting for the human rights monitoring body to come and start knocking 2 years later, but it's an engagement that you have started as a respondent state with the applicants. In my view, the fact that you're pushing to this, showing that it's not only a preserve of the state or the monitoring arm of the committee, but it's for all stakeholders, I think that is highly commended. And I would also want to tell you that fortunately, or unfortunately, you have started the engagement of a moral voice on this matter as members, as both applicants and respondents, and I believe this is something that will go beyond the bounds, the contours of Tanzania as a country, to the region, to the regional economic communities, to the continent, and globally. So it's my hope that in the implementation of this decision, we shall not only count our days, but we shall make our days count. Let's maintain that moral voice. I'll hand over the floor to Dr. Ayalu for subsequent administrative announcements. And on that matter, I declare this specific hearing, or this specific implementation hearing, closed. Thank you very much, and I hand over to Dr. Ayalu.
Thank you so much, Honorable Robert. Thank you, distinguished representatives from the United Republic of Tanzania and the applicants for a very productive engagement that we have just concluded. This will now bring us to the end of our open sessions. I think we are ending the open sessions with participation of a number of colleagues in the room, which we do really appreciate. We have seen some of you following the proceedings from the very beginning of the session. Since last week, we really appreciate your commitment. Of course, we have also colleagues who have joined us this morning, and distinguished representatives from various member states, including the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We welcome you and we recognize your presence in the room. So from this afternoon, starting from 2 o'clock, the committee will now proceed to closed session discussions. So we thank you all. We appreciate your presence here. For those of you traveling this afternoon or tomorrow, we wish you well and safe travels. We will see you soon again, sometime very soon down the line, including for the upcoming session of the committee, which will be held in a few months' time. That we will communicate online, and the dates and the venue of the session, at least the dates of the session, will be decided by the committee during this current sitting. Please follow the committee and its social media platforms, where the committee is communicating and sharing various information, a lot of information, including the dates of the upcoming session. A communique will be released sometime early next week on Monday, for you to appreciate what are the major decisions of the committee, which will be coming out of the session, that will now help you to engage the committee during the intersession time, during this session and the upcoming session, as partners of the African Committee of Experts. We wish you well. Please join us for one last lunchtime, which will start in probably in 45 minutes. Yes, in 45 minutes. So finally, particularly for the representative from Tanzania and the applicants, please join us here just by the door for a family photo, to tell the world that we are friends. Thank you so much.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واتبعوا ما تتلو الشياطين على ملك سليمان وما كفر سليمان ولكن الشياطين كفروا يعلمون الناس السحر وما أنزل على الملكين ببابل هاروت وماروت وما يعلمان من أحد حتى يقولا إنما نحن فتنة فلا تكفر فيتعلمون منهما ما يفرقون به بين المرء وزوجه وما هم بضارين